Coming up on the show, details of the new luxury SUV in town, the Mercedes-Benz GLE. Also, why the trend of adventure biking is growing and how to check the various fluid levels in your car.
Hello and welcome to CNB Bazaar Buzz. Yes, this is the new BMW X5M as well as the X6M that has been launched by BMW in the Indian market. This is the second generation models, but more details on both these cars coming up in next week's show. But let's start this week's show with another SUV, this one from Mercedes-Benz. The new GLE has been launched in the Indian market. Here are the details from the launch event, as well as a chat with the new CEO of Mercedes-Benz India on how he plans to conquer the SUV space.
It's innovative enough to help you stay on course, remain focused, and even park itself. It's been in the rain, the cold, and dragged through the mud. Introducing the all-new Mercedes-Benz GLE. It's where brains meet brawn.
Mr. Roland Folger has just taken charge at Mercedes-Benz India and already has his first launch under his belt. Many congrats on the new car.
You're welcome.
And thank you for speaking to us today.
Sure.
Car looks great. We of course had been expecting it for some time. The GLE was scheduled to arrive before Diwali, and so you've delivered on that promise. The SUV portfolio for Mercedes has started to become more and more relevant last few months. As you now come in, what's your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, I think it's nice for us to be able to state that this SUV segment has grown significantly also within our portfolio. Just to give you a key figure, we have grown 70% year over year this year alone already in the SUV segment. And I think especially in the luxury end of that segment, this is the perfect car to be positioned in. So we're looking very much forward to be able to sell it.
It's almost complete. The whole picture is almost complete now with now the GLC expected next. And everybody's talking about that space. That also becomes crucial for you because that's the one segment where you didn't have a product for a long time.
Yes, correct. So, but first we're going to start selling this one, and I think it was a good decision also, especially that vehicle, to produce it from the day one in our local plant down south. And we were very happy that we also could convince Germany to allow us to do that. It's basically our sign and trust into the local production. And in Pune, I think this has been received very well amongst our workers, and we're looking very much forward to be able to present it also to our customers. They have been waiting, like you mentioned before, for a long time for this.
No, it is significant, and of course I know it comes in with some new features as well from a technical point of view. Where do you see that going though? Because of course right now the timing is great with the festive season that's just upon us now, but where do you see it going in terms of SUVs accounting for, let's say, a certain part of the sales of your entire portfolio?
Basically, that depends very much on the general acceptance of SUVs. But what we have seen recently in the Indian marketplace, I believe, is that there is a much higher acceptance. People are asking for those vehicles. They've seen the benefits. They see also where the high-end luxury car segment can have a stronger contribution to that segment as well. And it's with the acceptance naturally comes also a very much higher interest in purchasing one for themselves or for their family. And it's predominantly the high seating position that people look for in such vehicles. The feeling, the cocooning effect as we call it, of sitting such in an elevated and safe vehicle, that contributes a lot to the people wanting more of these vehicles.
And in India is the high ground clearance as well. We love that. With the GLE, at the time I remember when I first drove the car, I think it was in July, globally when you came out with it, of course now it has a sibling, there's the coupe. It's not a segment that's been explored too much in India. There is only just the one car, and even with that we've seen it's remained niche because it's not been pushed by that manufacturer. Do you see a potential for not specifically that model, but these intermediate crossover SUV kind of models going forward?
I believe that what I've seen so far of the Indian markets in the 2 weeks, there is a lot more interest in also individualization. Yeah? And whether that's in the high-end luxury segment, if you look at our Maybach the Mercedes Maybach that we recently launched, or whether it goes into the more sporty section of AMG versions that basically define this high-end luxury sporty section, there is a lot more demand in customers. Also in direction of Designo that we introduced to go for individualization in the Indian marketplace. Because people have most likely the feeling they own it to themselves, they want to do it a little bit more differently, and they enjoy doing that very much.
So there could be potential today as opposed to a few years ago when that potential maybe didn't exist.
It's a question of maturing markets, and India has reached that stage. That's why we also trust that in the Indian segment, in the market here, there is still significant growth. People are just basically scratching the surface, so to speak, and they see what this level of individualization can do for them also personally. And actually, as a manufacturer, we are very well set up in order to basically fulfill these wishes and these interests.
Now, when you have SUVs like this, a couple of words that do come to mind are one, performance, as well as adventure. And nowadays, adventure not just on 4 wheels, but also on 2 wheels, with the biking community now taking up long expeditions. And if you're still waiting for your turn to take out a long bike ride, here are a couple of stories that will certainly inspire you.
Back home in India, there are quite a few passionate bikers who have truly experienced the world of adventure biking. Meet Jay Kaniyan, an adventure biker, and he has ridden his bike, a 1998 Suzuki DR650, all the way from Chicago to New Delhi. And here's how he did it.
In March 2010, I quit the job in the US, sold the house, everything I had there, except what would fit on my bike, and started on a one-way trip from US to India, going through South America, Europe, Africa, and around India. And that trip was it lasted 3 years, and I covered over 100,000 kilometers, 1 lakh kilometers, and crossed 33 countries on that trip.
One of the things that define adventure is facing the unknown and dealing with whatever is thrown at you. Jay has learned to be prepared to ride in extreme weather conditions, face mechanical issues or accidents en route, but has continued to ride on.
So adventure motorcycling as a sector is growing around the world, and especially in India as well. And what does it mean? I mean, you have a bike, you travel. You go for a 1-day trip, 2-day trip. That's a trip, a small journey. You go to Ladakh, it's an adventure. An adventure means that things are not going according to plan. It's not a tour. It's not every day you know what hotel you're going to stay at. Because when things start going wrong, when there's a landslide, when the bike breaks down, you have to make a decision on where to go next, what to do. That's a part of the adventure. And this I experienced in spades during my trip.
If you're a first-time adventure bike enthusiast, it's always better that you start out with a group or join a like-minded community just to understand the basics.
So MTM, Motorcycle Travelers Meet, we're organizing these meets around the country to bring adventure motorcycling to people. So I presented my story, and then we found out from the audience that there was somebody else who'd done an amazing journey. He presented his story. So there's a lot of interesting stories in India of people who've done amazing journeys. And the more we can share those journeys, what MTM is a platform for sharing these stories, it builds the sector. The sector only builds when you realize how strong the community is. And the community is very strong in India, but it's small and it's growing slowly. I think adventure motorcycling has a strong future in India.
The passion for adventure biking is not just restricted to big bikes, but you do have the odd bike exploring on less powered motorcycles or scooters. We met Gokul Ram, an adventure biking enthusiast from Chennai, and here's his ride. Yes, this is Bajaj M80, one of the top selling motorcycle of 1980s and yet one of the most reliable two-wheeler still used by many in the country. Gokul believes riding and exploring the great outdoors is more important than the type of ride itself.
I feel something different. If I go for a ride and come back, all my work day or college work, everything has become completely new for me. So it's a different kind of getaway from this regular routine works.
Gokul is a regular in biking fraternity and does frequent long distance ride in all kinds of bikes.
This bike, my first bike. I just saved some of my pocket money and just bought it from a scrap for not even for 2000, and then build it slowly, which took me 1 year of time. So since it's my first bike, I took it for a long ride, close to 11,000 kilometers in a solo trip. From Chennai to Kashmir, Khardungla, Masimikla, and then back to Kanyakumari, and then to Chennai.
Clearly, the adventure biking community in India is poised for strong growth, with riders like Gokul and Jay showing what it takes to be a serious adventure biker. More than skills on the bike, it's the passion to ride and explore that keeps the spirit going.
And speaking of adventure, we did an adventure of our own with the Mercedes-Benz GLA on the Great Overland Adventure, and it's coming soon on NDTV Prime.
Drive through life, destiny, roads unknown.
Over the next 6 months, we are taking you on an epic adventure.
Through 6 continents, 60,000 kilometers and 6 months. Drive, for borders don't exist. Nights, days mean little.
Different places, fascinating people. And joining me all through that will be this car.
6 drivers stitch the world together through one great journey as they chase the sun across the earth.
So these guys are doing something quite historic, and it'll be great to have you a part of it.
Mercedes-Benz presents The Great Overland Adventure. Starts 20th October, 8:30 p.m. on NDTV Prime.
Coming up after the break, we tell you how you can take care of your car better by knowing how to check the fluid levels of your car. Stay tuned to CNB Bazaar Buzz.